this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for the support so far on this project. It means the absolute world to us.
However, we've noticed that around 75% of you who listen and watch the show haven't yet hit the subscribe or like button.
So in order for this community to grow and allow us to build this project, we have a small request from you.
Please hit the subscribe or like button on the app that you're listening on or watching this show. Your commitment... What were you laughing at? I did a really good job, didn't I? Right, do another one. Please hit the subscribe or like button on the app you're watching or listening this show. Listening this show.
Remember to smile.
I'm always smiling.
You weren't.
Was I not? Stop it. Kelly's fucking waiting for us outside, bro.
Composed. Right, let's do it.
Please hit the subscribe or like button on the app you're listening to or watching this fucking show. Right, come on, just one more. Please hit the subscribe or like button. Your commitment is our commitment.
Let's do this.
Fuck off, come on, more.
Yeah, I'm not going to cheeseball it up, but I'll go, let's do this.
That'll do. Are we in, George? We're rolling straight in. All right, Schak, welcome.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
Really, really good. Thank you for inviting us to come down, mate. It's finally amazing to meet you, mate. I've always wanted to know what your secret is with your moustache and your beard. What are you using?
There's no fucking secret. It's just growing. It's just persistence. In fact, we'll talk about persistence in this. I'm sure it's going to come in because that's what I've noticed about you, mate. You've obviously shown persistence right from the start, and I've followed you for the last couple of years now.
Yeah.
And it's one thing I want to actually speak about because I think there's some value in there for people who are coming through, not even just in the music industry. I know we've got a lot of music artists on this because of my background, but I don't want to just pigeonhole ourselves into music. I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this show is transferable to all parts of your life. But I'm digressing a little bit. For those that don't know, who are you and what do you do?
So my name's Schak. I am a music artist from No Shields in Newcastle in the northeast of England. When people say what I do, it's multifaceted. What I believe that I do. Music's not my only thing that I do, and not the only reason why I was put on this earth. I've got multifaceted objectives that I want to achieve in my lifetime. But that's what people will know as thus far is I'm a music artist. So yeah.
And that's why I've got you down because you stood out for me, and I mentioned this on another podcast that I had before this. I was speaking to my old manager, big up Lee Haslam, and we were talking about presence on social media, and we we're talking about how artists who are a bit more established have had struggles or problems kind of being themselves on camera. And you're one person who isn't fucking afraid to just be daft and be yourself and be relaxed. And that comes across. Now, sitting in front of you now, and this is the first time we've met, you're not the Schak that I see on the videos as I've perception, as we were talking about earlier. But it's nice to see another side for you. We spoke for half an hour in a coffee shop before this, and it's nice to see that there's more than one side to the social media side. It's like the tip of the iceberg. All you see on social media is that tip of the iceberg, but there's actually a whole iceberg underneath.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I want to talk about today. But
I do you know what? Like I often get when I meet people and they actually talk to us, they're like, "Oh, you're nothing like I thought. There's so much more to you." And I says, "You're not the first. You won't be the last." But I like that. I like that. People just think I'm just this Raji. But I like that. I love being like an underdog or misinterpreted, and people like when they get to talk to us and know us. And that's the thing. I guess it ties into everything. People just see like a 30-second clip of you and think you've got you figured out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, and that applies to everybody in life. And I think where it comes from with me is my mum always taught us to be a people person and understand people. She's such a wise woman, and I'm so grateful that she's my mother because I wouldn't be who I am today without her, and she gave me such vast, rich wealth of knowledge. She always taught me to understand people, that people are a byproduct of their environment and they didn't come out the womb the way they are, and you need to understand why is that person the way they are. So that's made me over time understand people and want to know them and get them. Do you know what I'm saying? What makes them tick? So because of that, I listen to people a lot, and I love to understand their opinions on why they are the way they are, because I think in this day and age as well, mate, like everyone's angry and they're fucking arguing with each other across the internet. People are never even going to meet, right? And I just think if we understood each other more as humans and understood the perspectives, and that's the thing, it's communicating, being able to have a conversation without getting flying off the handle and understanding, okay, I think this, you think that. Why do you think that? Let's talk about it. And I think that is more pertinent now than ever because of social media and stuff like that. So that's what I love, just having conversation about real subjects that are really important.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, for me, Schak, it's really refreshing to hear that as well, just because the conversation we had just before this podcast, for anybody who wants to know, we can't disclose too much of that conversation, but it was great to just sit and have a chat, and, you know, you just rolled with a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of synchronicities with our perception on certain subject matter. But for me, you know, what you've already said there about multifacets of who you are as a person, for a lot of people that are tuning into the show initially now, and the artists and guests we've had so far are in the industry that you're in. So first of all, for me, why have you chosen to be a DJ and do what you do in this industry then?
That's a great question. So ever since I was a young boy, like, I've always had an obsession with music, and from a very young age, my mum always said to me, she said that you'll go on to do amazing things in this world. And she always used to say it was like, you chose to be born at this time for specific reasons that are going to happen in the world in the years to come, which is what I firmly believe. I don't believe anybody's born by coincidence. I think you pick the time, you pick your parents, because your parents will have an effect on how you turn out, right? Like I said, you're a byproduct of your environment, and having that perception helped me overcome a lot of my trauma and a lot of hardship, because then you realise this is what I signed up for, and then you take that and you go, this is what's going to make me the person I am. But from a very young age, I just always knew that I would do something. Now, I started out acting before I did music, and that's something that I am wanting to get into the future, which is why when I signed with my management company, I said, like, these are my objectives in life. This is the things I do want to do. How would you facilitate them? So I knew who to pick the right management and what would be best. Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant.
So I started out with acting from a very young age, and it's mad because my mum, when she went back to work, because my mum, this is one thing I love about her so much, she sacrificed a huge part of her life to raise me correctly. And she went back to work once I was a little bit older. She gave me all the nurture because my dad wasn't there. He left when I was a young child. Okay. So she was a single parent, right? And she actually, in the summer holidays, because she'd be going back to work, obviously I need something to do, she put me in acting workshops in the summer holidays. And that's when I started doing theatrical acting. And I'll never forget this one day that we were doing a Harry Potter play. Right. And the person who was running it, right, who wants to be Harry Potter? I just ran straight up. I was like, me. I didn't think I'd be picked, but she did. Right. And I've got a picture. I'll show you after, because I got in the newspaper and the local news magazines. There's a picture of me when I was like 9 or 10 with a fucking bolt on my head. And with the glasses on, reading this book, mate.
We need that picture.
I'll send you, mate. I swear.
That's a soundbite.
That's why the screen would actually be good now. We get that picture of Schak up there as Harry Potter. Wicked.
And my mates were calling him Schaky Potter after that. But right.
Yes, that's Schaky Potter. That's top. That.
So I always had this feeling inside of us. Now, this might sound mad to you, but from a very young age, and I think it's either a combination of what my mother instilled in me and my soul, just the feeling inside of us. I've known my purpose from a very young age. So I always knew I was going to do something. And then as I got older, I started getting more involved with music. And when I grew up listening to rap music. It wasn't actually dance music. Obviously, I don't know with you, Jack, if it was different for you, but I grew up like Tupac, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, NWA, all of that, right? And I didn't actually start listening to dance music properly until I got to high school. And in the Northeast, we've got, obviously Jackie knows all about this with him being from Sunderland, but we have got hardcore music, Spanish hardcore music called Makina.
That's it.
And I was aware of it because back then, you're talking 2004, 2005, this was in the peak days of it, so to speak, because you had the New Monkey nightclub in Sunderland was still open, which was a notorious nightclub. That was still open. And so, I walking around on the street and that, I'd hear, all the boy racers flying past. Oh, you can hear it all, right?
Yeah. So
I was aware of it. And it wasn't until I got to high school, mate. Like, I went into high school as like a skater. I used to listen to hip hop. I used to go, I used to do skating up in the skate parks with my friends. And I was like, I'm not going to be like that type of, like we call them Rajis or Chavas.
Right.
Yeah.
Rajis or Chavas, right?
Rajis.
They
So
would
it's like chavs in it.
It's the same thing, but we call them Chavas or Rajis, right? They would listen to that type of music, and you'd have your Birkhouse jacket on, your Fred Perry Rockports.
I loved them.
All of that, right? And I was like, in my mind, I'll never forget this. I remember walking into school, I was like, I'm never going to be like that. And then like, a couple of months later, I had a fucking Birkhouse jacket and Adidas pants and a pair of TNs and that. And then slowly I started listening to this Makina, or the Monkey as we call it back home. And I slowly started liking it. So then what I did is I was like, right, I'm going to be an MC. I'm going to learn how to MC. So I took 2 weeks off school. Obviously, my mum, oblivious to her, she didn't have a fucking clue I was doing it. But I took 2 weeks off. She would go to work in the morning. I'd pretend I'm going to school, stay in the back lane till our buses come. Once she's on the bus, boom, back inside. I'd take my weightlifting board, set it down. This is when I'd regiment my day. I'd be like, right, I'm going to print some lyrics off the internet. And then I would stand in the mirror, and my mum had this mic from like years ago. And I would just stand in the mirror and pretend to MC, and I would just recite these lyrics and learn them. And that's where it all started. And I came back to school 2 weeks later, and I was like, where have you been? I've been learning how to MC. And then...
How old were you?
I was 13. 39. And then I just turned 14 not long after that, and put slits in my eyebrows and that. And that's where the journey started, really, for me. But the reason why I do what I do is, I love music. The thing about music is, music touches you in places which words can't describe, and you can really speak to people in ways that no language on the earth can. Yeah, like someone who's fucking hurting, who's been through such a bad time, whether it's they've lost a partner, they've lost a parent. They're just going through, they've hit rock bottom. You can speak to that person, reached into the depths of their fucking soul, and be like, stand up, get on your fucking feet. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And
big time. And like everything that Shak's saying here, I'm getting it, definitely.
And that's it's beautiful. It's so beautiful, mate. And do you know what? Have you ever seen Equilibrium with Christian Bale?
Yes.
Can you remember in the movie plot is basically that there was a Third World War, and they deduced that the reason why Third World War was caused was because of emotions. So they have to take all these pills to repress their emotions, and they're not allowed to listen to music, right? And I sat and thought to myself, what would life be like if there was no music? And like, you look at our planet, right? What separates us from every other species on this planet? We're the only ones that are really making music, right? The soul inside the human body, we express through creativity. And that is like one of the gifts from the universe, is being able to express creativity. And it's a beautiful thing to do. And we can change the world with music, mate. It just, and like I say, it goes back to my point, it just speaks to you in a way that no other language can. And I just love doing it. But I love, like I said, it's making people happy and taking them away from the fucking shit that they've been, they could have had a hard week, and they live for that weekend, that moment where they get a respite and go to just forget about everything, and they're just in the moment. And that's beautiful, mate. And if I can do that, or just one person, that fulfills my purpose as a human. So, yeah.
Does that answer your question?
That does answer the question, yeah. And prior to obviously the show here, I'm not surprised with the answer for me, but I still stuck with my initial question because I was intrigued. But for people listening to this, Schak, and for people who know about you, and now for people who might not necessarily know you as an artist, that question's asked a lot, and your answer there, I could feel how important it is to you. And as somebody who's always been on the receiving end of artists and friends and DJs, you can feel that energy through the music that's played in that. So you've definitely got something there and a gift, and I believe that you're definitely doing that for your kind of purpose, and I can feel how deep it is to you. So a really good answer. Yeah,
thank you, appreciate that, mate.
Wicked.
It means a lot. It really does.
One of the things I wanted to touch on there, Schak, was well, one of the questions I was going to ask was influences in terms of music, but I kind of knew that coming from the Northeast, right? You talked about Makina and the Monkey and that, but one thing that stood out there was the relationship you've got with your mum.
Yeah.
That seems, so when you started talking about your mum, you could tell in your voice and the way your energy was that your mum obviously means everything to you.
She's definitely your biggest fan, isn't she?
She's your biggest fan, but also, which is a reoccurring theme, and a lot of these people we spoke to, is that the support from the parents is vital. You know, your mum was, I can't quote you exactly, but she was basically saying you're going to do great things and this, that, and the other. How important do you think that's been to your success in terms of the support from your mum? Can you put it in words?
I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my mother. Like, look, I was a very hard child to raise because high energy levels. My dad wasn't there. She had to be the father and the mother, right? And it was really, really hard. And she, honestly, I'm so grateful because I've been told off a lot of friends when they've met my mum, like, I wish I had a mother like yours. And she's such a gift to humanity because of the things she's taught me. And this, I think the greatest thing you can do is raise another human correctly, right? Which is very hard to do. Like, I can't wait to be a parent, and it's very hard to do. And the reason why it's so important is you are passing down knowledge, right? But also there's a caveat to that is if you do it wrong, you are perpetuating the cycle of trauma, negativity, and then you are then going on to create even more negativity in the world.
We're just sniggering because we was having this conversation yesterday, Schak, and you're just reinforcing Jacky's personal circumstance. Me and him was basically just talking about life as a whole and raising kids. I've not got a kid, and currently Jacky hasn't either, but we were just talking about, and I said to Jacky about the whole thing about family. I said, we get an opportunity to break the cycle. And then you just mentioned it there. So sorry, carry on.
No.
That's why I was giggling, because it's so
unbelievable.
It makes so much sense. It's not a coincidence.
No.
We're talking about this together with you, and that resonated with me a lot. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and that's one thing that my mother taught me, and she's honestly she's so knowledgeable, and I know she's incarnated here multiple lifetimes. She's got so much wisdom, and she passed it on to me, and she told me how important it is to break the cycle of trauma, right? And she was the only one in our family to do so. And she categorically proved it was possible.
Yeah.
And I've had many, many friends who've experienced unspeakable things, right? And she is the epitome of how to break the cycle of trauma. She had such a hard life, and she's such a beautiful woman inside out. And I'm a byproduct of her. And she taught me everything on how to be a good human. She taught me the purpose of life, why we're here, how important it is to pass down positivity, energy, and contribute to make the world change. And I'll never forget this, right? One day, my favorite films is Terminator 1 and 2, right?
Piss off.
Yeah. But
fuck off, man. I've never, until this week...
He's gonna tell me to go home in a minute.
I'm going to have to tell you, go home again. Last week, sorry to interrupt, but to digress, last week I talked about films, our favourite films, and I'd never heard Terminator 2 called as a favourite film, and he called it 2 days ago. And that's the second time in 3 days I've heard that.
Easy money.
Sorry, so Terminator 1 and 2 are your favourite films.
So
this episode is sponsored by Digital Ibiza Rentals, the go-to crew for all your needs in Ibiza. Digital have been the lead concierge service in Ibiza since 2016, and there's a pretty good reason for that too. It's not because they have lovely hair, or because they're well-mannered lads. Actually, why are they the best?
It's in the script. They're paying us to say that.
Oh, awkward. Anyway, listen, if you go into Ibiza and you need yachts, villas, private transfers, car hire, club tickets, guest list, or even helicopters, Digital has you covered. And these guys specialise in DJ equipment and sound systems. Listeners of this show get 20% off their first use of the service.
Just quote Bear Chat on checkout and get 20% off.
So head over to their Instagram at Digital Ibiza Rentals or to their website, digitalibizarentals.com, and quote
Bear Chat
to get 20% off. By the way, invites to villa parties are welcomed. Nice one.
I was watching Terminator 2, right?
Yeah.
And that film, I love them equally both for different reasons, right? Mm-hmm. But there's especially a massive deep meaning in the second one. It's very pertinent to the world we live in now and the future, potential future to come, right? Mm. But I used to watch it on repeat all the time. And one day, at the end, and I still cry at the ending all the time. And it's multifaceted why I do cry at it. But one day, I started crying uncontrollably when the Terminator says to John that he has to leave, and he's like, "Don't go, don't go." And what it was is the relationship that he has is like the dad that he always had, and that's the kind of the relationship that I yearned for as a little boy, right? But I'll never forget this. There's a scene in Terminator 2 where John is looking at two boys fighting at each other, and they're playing with two toy guns. He's like, "I got you first." He was like, "No, you didn't." And he turns to the Terminator and he's like, "We're not going to make it as a human race, are we?" And he was just like, "It's in your own nature to destroy yourselves." And I said that to my mum, and my mum said no. And I says, "What do you mean?" And she went, "We are here to raise the vibrational frequency of the human consciousness, right?" She's telling me this when I'm fucking I'm a kid.
What?
And I was like, "What the fuck you talking about?" Obviously, I am incapable of understanding what she is telling me, right? But as time has passed on, I've realised more and more and more. There's people here who come here. We're all here to raise our own vibration, but to contribute this, we were talking about some of the amazing people in the world, right? Who people call them starseeds, who have come here to inspire generations of people, right? To contribute to collectively changing the world, changing the way we think, because there might be people out there who are listening going, what do you mean by changing the vibrational frequency or changing the consciousness of humanity? It is how we are as people, energy. Everything's energy. Everything in this room's made of energy. Yeah. We all vibrate on a frequency, right? So she, from a young age, told me about that, the importance of that. And it's not it's only until as I've got older I've been able to fully understand what that means. And you see some of the most amazing people, like one of my heroes is Ayrton Senna, right? And he was a greater person off this racing circuit. The things that he did, he was just such a blessed person. And I think that's one of the things about him. Obviously, I never met him. He died when I was 2. But when you look at the contribution he made to humanity, he come from Brazil. He was very lucky to come from a wealthy family, and he did so much to give back to the people of Brazil because they're such a poverty-stricken country, right? I can go on with a list of amazing people who have been gifted to this world, and you can see the legacy they've left. And you could say that having an obligation might be too much of an egregious word to use, but I do think if you've got the knowledge that you have a duty and a moral obligation to pass it down, because we are the way that the world is. It's more important now than ever that we pull together. There's so much divide, so much anger. There's so many wounded people. Like, this is another thing, and I'm assuming you'll have it in one of your questions, but one thing I've realised, especially in the past couple of years, is as an artist, and you put yourself out there, there's a lot of angry people in the world, a lot of wounded and angry people, and a lot of people who are hurting and they're going through some shit that they project it out. Because I got asked one time about, like, how do you deal with, like, negativity and stuff like that. What it is instead of looking at someone with anger, you've got to look at them with pity, because anyone who's happy, like, if you're on such a high vibration and you're just loving life, and you're in, you know, that moment where everything's going great and you're happy. You don't give a flying fuck what anyone's doing. No. You're not going to go out your way to be like spending, might I add as well, your most critical asset and most valuable asset, time, which you can never get back, on being a cunt. And I know that's a really strong word of man. If you're listening, I'm really sorry I've said that.
In trouble.
But it just highlights my point.
Yeah.
Illustrates my point, is that you are spending your most critical asset. You can never get time back. Doesn't matter how much money you've got, it's gone. And the best way to depict this is an hourglass. You see the grains of sand.
Yeah.
What is gone's gone. It's now, you can never get it back. And you're spending that on the internet, giving someone shit who you don't even know, or someone you're never going to meet. And I see it with, like, you know, on social media, people arguing with each other, and I'm like, oh, it's like, you know, when you look outside the bigger box, it's like, we've been given such a short amount of time to come here and do what we need to do. And it's not people's fault. I get it.
Yeah.
They get embroiled in it and they get caught up in it. And that is why we are here to contribute to changing the world. That's my ethos. That's why I'm here, is to contribute to make the world a better place. I don't know how much time I've got on this earth, but I do know in the time that I'm here, I'm going to do as much as I can to help as many people, to contribute to changing the world. And when my time's up, I know I've done my job and I can go on to the next job happy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Whatever that is.
Whatever that is, yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Sorry.
I'm just trying to process it. But one thing that you did mention a couple of times there was trauma as well. So I know your mum. Are you a single child? Are you only?
No. I've actually got 7 siblings, but that's like split between mother and father.
All right, cool.
But
So-
like, I'm the youngest in the age gap. I've got a sibling who's nearly 50.
Right.
So there's a massive age gap.
Okay.
I was the youngest.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
32.
So I was the young. My mum had me just before she turned 37.
Right.
So I was her last one. But that's the thing as well, that all that knowledge of raising children,
Yeah.
I got the best version, because, you know, by that point you know what you're doing and stuff like that. And that's one thing again, mate. Like, I get so many beautiful nuances knowing, like, I know this is going to sound mad to people, because some people think that life's just life and when you're dead, you're dead. And I've got one of my friends, he's actually a good friend of mine, DJ. He doesn't believe we've got a soul, and he just believes we're cells and atoms. And I was like, fascinated. How? Because to me, it's such a bleak perspective on life that we're just here and then we're gone. What's the fuck's the, what we're sitting here for?
That comes back to perception, though. Doesn't it?
That's what I'm saying. But to me, I feel it inside, and it's like, it's just such a deep topic, and it's something that I could talk about forever. But it's the knowledge that was passed, that my mother passed on to us, and she made us see things in a different world. And it's like I was saying to you before, perspective in life is everything.
Yeah.
I said this to my girlfriend when we first met each other, is that perspective in life is so important, because, like I said earlier, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change.
Yeah.
And that is so important. Like, there's so many things that have happened in my life, it's how you look at them. You know, in school you get taught glass half empty, half full, right? It might sound cliche, but it's true. And there's so many beautiful things in, like you were alluding to, with trauma. Your pain can be your greatest gift if you allow it to be. You can use it, and the thing is with it, you can use it as fuel. And or the way I look at it is interpret is this is part of my journey to develop me and prepare me for the things coming in the future, and this is part of my life plan. Like, do you know what? I really do believe as well that when you come to this life, you choose to learn ABC, right? And this is the best factor. So you pick your parents, you pick where you're born, you pick what type, when and where, everything. Because I think about me, right? If I was born like a couple of years later, if I was like a Gen Z now, I know it's going to sound mad, because how could you possibly know unless you're in that situation? But I think the way I am as a person, it just wouldn't have worked. If my breakthrough came at the right time, all through COVID, mate, all of it happened in COVID.
Yeah.
That is not by chance. The things that have happened, it can't be coincidence. So that reinforces my belief that you choose when you come here. And when you look at life like that, when shit comes your way, you change your perspective on it. I've chose this is part of my development, my life path, things that I've come to learn and evolve. However, I will say this, there is cause and effect. So if I go out in the street tomorrow and I decide to go and stab someone or whatever, I've deliberately altered my life path.
Yeah,
right?
negative energies.
Just because your course is set doesn't mean that you'll get there.
You get there.
And that
you got to walk the path.
Exactly. And that is part of the beauty of life, is that this is where you're supposed to go. Doesn't mean you get there.
No.
But that's when you get tested. And that is when you're in the depths of, when you're in the trenches and you're getting tested, that's when it's really important to have people around you to help you and or sometimes look back retrospectively on things. And again, I just keep coming back to it. You know what it is? I might get a tattoo on my arm. I swear to God, perception's everything.
I'm surprised you haven't.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised.
I've only got one tattoo. That is my debut song. It's the Spotify QR code.
Is that
is it?
Yeah, it works as well. You know, if you use a phone on it,
That's
it comes
wicked.
up. But it's perception's everything. And I can't say this enough. And do you know what I did? I did a Q&A and a workshop with some kids from a school back in Newcastle at Riverside Academy in Walker.
Right.
And I was doing a Q&A with the kids, and obviously they're a lot younger. And when you're younger, your perception's different, right? And I'm trying to tell them, and I know they physically can't perceive it because they haven't took that journey yet, right? Trying to tell them that, like, I'm 32 now. I'm saying some of the people you sit next to, you're never going to see them again, and enjoy your time at school because once it's gone, like, you'll look back. Most people will anyway. I did it on school and with fondness, and respect your teachers because not all heroes wear capes, and my teachers deliberately changed my life in high school, and I'm basically trying to tell them stuff that I've learned from my tenure on this planet. But I know it's going in. I'm looking at some of the kids and I can tell it's just like, it's not, and that's not their fault. That's the part of the journey.
We would have been like that when we were that age.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And this is the thing again, going back to when my mum was telling us
about the Terminator thing.
About
Yeah,
the Terminator thing.
yeah.
I'm just like, what are you fucking talking about?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Like you said earlier, though, you're passing. So basically, what you've been handed, you're then getting the opportunity, which I imagine I can see you there, Schak, now, just loving it anyway. But like you said before, if it's just one person you can impact, and I know when you was there speaking to the young kids, some of them are sat there, but there will have been some sat there and it will have stuck with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're being of service, you're passing on, and that's what it's all about, you know, passing on the wealth of knowledge. And for me, just going back to what you were saying before, I want to meet your mum already. I want to meet you. Get her on the show. Get her on the show. That's rare to hear that, first of all, because from my circle of friends that I grew up with and people that I know, and some people experienced it as well, single parent families, like you said, is difficult.
Very difficult.
And your mum is definitely an anomaly from what I hear about other examples. First point. Second point is obviously that relationship you've got seems really, really like just beautiful, you know what I mean? And I can tell how close you are with your mum, and rightly so. And it's amazing because she's injected that into you, and that's allowing you to pursue what you're doing now, and which is why I asked that question at the beginning. And I can tell how much it means to you, which is something I want to ask you while we're on the topic. Actually, it's just come in my head that I seen a clip of you at Creamfields, and I actually seen your reaction to that gig at Creamfields afterwards. Am I right that you got pretty emotional?
Is this when I was crying?
Yeah,
that was then. It was then. So I'll never forget this. Right. So when I was planning my set, I wanted to say something to the crowd, but I didn't trust the mics. So I was like, I'm not taking the gamble. So I put my voice in the tune on the breakdown, right?
Right.
It's just saying, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's contributed to where I am in my life.
Oh, so on that clip, the voice, that's actually in the track?
Was live.
Because I thought that had just been sampled in afterwards.
No,
and
that was live.
It was like you thanking him at the end of your set. So that was live.
Mate, no, that was live. That's
right,
right.
Okay.
So
go on.
Because I thought, right, I'll go on the mic, but you know what it's like, Jack. I was like, I'm not fucking risking this. Like, so, I'd say 25,000 people. I just want to, because get on the mic, and it's people. I was like, nah, I can't do it.
Yeah,
because
okay.
it was in the middle of my debut song that I've got on my arm, right?
And that's on your.
Yeah. So I was like, right,
love it.
So I'll put my voice in it, so I know there's no chances people are going to hear what I'm going to say, because it's really important to me that people know that. I'm so grateful for the support that I've got, and all the messages that I get off people who take precious time out of the day to say, look, love your music, or it's just like, hey, check your stuff out, anything. And I really appreciate it, right? So I was telling them, and the breakdown's dead emotional, right? And I was just like, oh, like I'll not cry and that, I'll not cry, right? And I've walked to the front, and I was just like waving at people. And I remember walking back, and I was like, I'm not gonna cry, and that. And I just turned back, and boom, all this it just come out of us. And before my set, right, I was bending down. And I had this theatrical intro. It was it Space Odyssey 2001? It's like, I can't remember the name of the soundtrack, but it's like dead theatrical. And then it cuts into Mortal Kombat, this Mortal Kombat remix I've done, right? Anyway, I was bending down, and because that music's dead theatrical, I was fucking having a mental breakdown behind the decks, because I've dreamed for so many years of playing at Creamfields. I was playing in front of 25,000 people, and I was like...
Wow, that's a lot of people.
I was just like... bent down behind the decks, and I was like you need to pull yourself together, right? So I stood up in that, but in after in the middle of my set when I played that voice note, I just kept on crying, but that was just a release of everything over the years and that. And my tour manager was like, he patted us on the shoulder, and I was like, you okay in that? You fucking have to call the AA. I'm having a breakdown here. Fucking hell. But yeah, mate, that was just that was the greatest day of my life, greatest moment of my life.
Brilliant. I loved it. When I seen it, it touched me watching it. But and again, I feel grateful to be able to sit in this show, today's episode, and be able to ask you that question and hear your journey with that and the answers that you're giving so far, Schak. You know what I mean? we could run this podcast for hours, which I'm sure we'll do at the barbecue.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to touch on there. So the first thing is the vulnerability. You know, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, we started this, was to kind of let people know they can let those barriers down. You've mentioned crying twice already.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like a lot of men especially are afraid to admit that they can cry or show emotion or show... They almost portray it as weakness. I don't think it's a weakness at all.
No, definitely. That's the story I told myself for a long time, being completely honest, because the era, and you guys will resonate with this as well, but when I grew up in the 80s and the 90s and stuff, it was a little bit different with generations. Like, it was roll your sleeves up and crack on mentality.
Pull up your bootstraps.
Yeah, which I agree with to some degree. You've got to do that. Do you know what I mean? No, don't be a victim of your own self-perpetuating, like, obsessive, like, kind of woe is me kind of approach. I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, you've got to reach out. But it was my upbringing around me in society at the time was that, come on, you don't cry. Come on, you're a lad. Come on, hurry up. And I understand that for then, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, aren't we? Like what Schak was saying before. And for me, that's why that clip really, really touched me. And there's a few that have been popping up this week. The guy who's doing the fundraiser at the minute for his little girl.
The lad from not Birmingham, from Coventry.
Yeah, the ex-footballer. I forget his name, but anyway, I seen a clip of him the other day, Schak. If you've not seen it, I'll show it you later on. But in front of a whole crowd, this guy's a beast. And I know you mentioned it on a podcast the other day, Schak, about pain and adversity. Adversity can be your greatest gifts and make you a beast. Yeah. This guy is a beast, full-blown physical beast. But the pain and the trauma of his daughter's passing, he's used that as a driver to do what he's doing now. And he's got a massive charity. He's got a lot of following around it. But when you see this clip, honestly, like, I was in the top bedroom crying my eyes out.
Oh, yeah.
Upstairs, yeah. When I first watched it.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, it's unbelievable. And again, he's a big guy who, I believe, just my perception, decades ago, it'd be kind of like, it wouldn't happen.
Well, I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on, we talked about trauma. What makes a person go one way or the other? Using it as an advantage. Like the hammer can be used to knock down a wall or build a house, right? So what do you think makes a person go lean into that and go the other way, or use it as a strength and to get to that point where you're stood in Creamfields playing to 25,000 people, literally living your dream? Because you could have gone the other way as well.
I'm going to say real quick, jump in, support. Schak, for me, I know he's got a massive amount of support from his mum. I'm looking at the clip I seen of the other dude. I forget his name. But anyway, support. I see that. I might be wrong.
Your question is one that has many answers, right? I'm going to answer from personal experience, and then I'm going to answer from experience that I've learned over my lifetime, right? Because there's not one answer. There's not a universal answer. Everybody's journey and story is different, right? So in my experience, I would say my mother is pivotal to me being where I am. she instilled in me from a very young age, like I've alluded to previously, that I would be something special one day and I would go on to do amazing things, right? And considering my environmental factors, on paper I shouldn't have been like that, because I was made to feel subhuman and put down in that I would never amount to nothing. People would laugh and all that stuff, right? But I had so much confidence because my mum kept on instilling us from a very young age that you would go on, and it's very critical. I think the first 7 years of a child's life are the most important, because that's when your subconscious is built.
Yeah.
So she instilled in a young age to do that. However, what I will say is this: that doesn't mean that is always the answer. And what I would say to that is the epitome of that is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So if you actually take the time and look at his story, so it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
His father obviously fought in the German army, came back after they've lost the war, so humiliated, defeated, broken country. I know his father was from Austria, but he took his trauma out on his kids, and I'll never forget this. He said what made him is what killed his brother, Gustav, I think he was called.
Yeah.
So what I mean is the harshness that made Arnold who he is, and he's had an amazing career, multifaceted career, is what led his brother to alcoholism and his death. Mm-hmm. So when you're asking what is it, for me it was my mother, but some people might not have that support. And to answer that, it's you. The soul inside of you. It's such a deep topic, because I wish I had all the answers, and but the ways, again, going back to perception, is everything. If you get that wisdom in you at a young age, because mate, you look at Mike Tyson, rough life, and that made him an absolute beast. Obviously, that obviously contributed to some of his downfall as well.
Yeah.
But his circumstances made him one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Yeah. Right. So again, it's using it. It's perception. Yeah. And I know there might be someone listening out there going like, "Well, I'm hurting. Like, what can I do about it?" And I'm a massive advocate of do not get stuck in victim mentality. Yeah. Like, I've been asked before about like the things that have happened to me, and whilst I like talking about them, I don't like dwelling on them, because victim mentality is very dangerous to yourself. Yeah. Because you are the architect of your reality, and if you keep blaming other people for things that have happened in your life, you're going fucking nowhere. But again, it's perception. I look at everything. You'll never do this, you'll never do that, and I'm like, I love proving people wrong. And I love being an underdog and being doubted. It gives me fuel. Yeah. But I guess because I'm trying to dig in deeper to someone who's not wired the same way as us, because there will be someone listening out there, and it's how do you translate, how do you articulate that message in a way that they can understand? And the way it is this. Look, I used to be friends with this lad who he got dealt a really shitty hand. He basically went through renal failure when he was 9. Now, in a man, if that happens, it fucks your endocrine system up. Yeah. So he didn't go through puberty. So he was a man trapped in a boy's body. Obviously, all the challenges that come with that. And then on top of that, when he did get a transplant donor, for whatever reason, I still don't fully understand it anatomically, they stitched his kidney on the front of his abdomen instead of taking his out and putting it in the back. So he's got no protection. So if he falls on it, he could die. And he had a lot of trauma. And for 10 years, I tried to help him for 10 years. Constantly. And in the end, I had to just cut ties with him because he was stuck in victim mentality. And I was like, look, the only person who can change your life is you. And I'll tell you who a great example of this is David Goggins. And anyone who doesn't know David Goggins, fucking look him up. Yeah. His story's mad. Yeah. Abusive father, massively overweight. It was doubted by everybody. Said he had a low IQ, was thick, had a speech impediment. And he took control of his life and went, fuck this. And he became, I think, probably the hardest person in the world. Yeah. He's an absolute monster, right? Yeah. Again, his circumstances made him. So, I guess, and again...
It's a hard question. It's a hard question, which is why I asked it.
It's a very hard question, but again, for someone out there who's going through so much pain, I'm so sorry, my heart goes out to you, but the pain that you are receiving and you're going through, this can be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. And you might be thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? How is this great? Because it's a fuel in abundance that can make you be the greatest version of yourself. You've got to take that satchel of shit and own it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you will stay a victim for the rest of your life. Do not let your past define you.
Yeah.
Let it make you an absolute monster.
Yeah,
and that's why I say all the things that I've went through, mate.
Yeah.
If I had to do it all again, I'd fucking do it all again, because that's what made us who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And I love myself as a person, and I know that I wouldn't be who I am had I not had that adversity, and it's a gift. Mate, like, look, I'm assuming yous have, but I've met people who've never faced strife, really. And their perception on life is fucking canny warped. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, like, it's just mad. And I think, like, because of how my beliefs on life and why we're here and the purpose of life, you don't, 9 times out of 10, you don't grow unless you're forced to grow, right? Something happens in your life, a breakup, a death in the family, or you just get sick and tired of your own bullshit. I remember I've got this meme saved on my computer of Skeletor. Used to get it from this page on Facebook called Skeletor is Love, and they would put out daily like positive affirmations with like pictures of Skeletor from the He-Man series, and it was like my transformation begins when I get sick and tired of my own bullshit. And I love that saying, because like you just get sick, you're like, fuck this, I've had enough, and then you change. So I guess to answer your question in full is everybody's circumstances are different, but just know, because there is people out there who've got no one, who won't have a mother or a father, right?
True.
And what you've got to do is you've got to pick yourself up, and you've got to take this and believe. You can achieve anything if you believe in it. You've got to believe in yourself. All you need is you. Just believe in yourself, and the rest will follow. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely fucking not. But that is part of the journey. And one day you will look back and you'll smile and you'll be grateful for all of it.
Yeah, out of darkness comes light and all that. And it's funny because me and Jacky were talking earlier, literally this morning, when we took Luna for a walk, and Jacky was talking about his time as a DJ touring and on the road, and obviously my experiences and that, and we was talking about it, and I said to Jacky, there's a phrase that I hear often, which is sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then when you get to that point, and going back to what you were saying there, Schak, which is just in the back of my head whilst you were saying all of that, 100% agree, absolutely, with everything. And for me, it's this thing of fear crops up quite a lot.
In what respect?
Like people who are fearful of facing the fire.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing. You see, like I was saying before, I can tell that your mum's your biggest fan, and I'm saying that not just as an artist and a DJ, but you're just your biggest fan. I can tell, and the relationship you've got, I can see that, and she's injected a lot of belief in you as a human being, and has cultivated and nurtured all that energy and nurtured that wiring of your brain to say, go out there and fly and go and do it. There's a lot of people out there, like you said, their circumstances are different, X, Y, and Z. But for me, what I've found in my journey and being around people who have had to go through adversity, had to go through the hard times, had to hit the fucking wall, rock bottom, all the rest of it, it's that anticipation of being fearful of something. And what people don't realise, and I said it on the show, that the first episode me and Jacky was on, is what I've found is on the other side of fear is faith. And when you have faith, then magic things can happen, sort of thing. And that's similar to what you're saying there, is that exact same thing. Belief and faith in yourself, first of all.
But do you know what's really interesting that you say that? Do you know what the link between faith and fear is?
Go on.
It requires you to believe in something that you can't see.
Yeah.
So it can work both ways. It's like placebo, nocebo.
Yeah.
It's like the power of your mind. You can believe you're going to die and you can die of it. I swear to God. But it can work the other way around. This is the thing. Like, look, I've never really talked about this, right? But I had a friend of mine who I went to school with. It's a really sad story. He ended up getting penile cancer. I didn't even know it was a thing at the time.
Right.
I said to my friend at the time, I went, do you mean testicular cancer? Like, no, he's got it in his penis.
How old were you, sorry, at the time?
25.
25, okay.
And he was 26 when he passed away, right?
Right.
But
sorry.
He obviously he had to get his penis removed, and he used to be like a really good football player, so he was going through all that journey, right? And I hadn't spoken for a long time. And when I heard about his circumstances, I reached out to him. Luckily, he was still on Facebook Messenger, and I said, like, look, mean, what do you say to something like that? I said, like, look, mate, like, I'm here if you want to talk, and we got to talking together. We got talking again, which was really nice. And he was dead upbeat about beating his cancer, right? And I didn't speak to him for a long time. There was a period of time where I hadn't spoken for a while, and then he reached back to us, and I'll never forget this. He had a little girl on the way, and I've still got the messages on my phone, and he basically got a text that says, like, what's going on, are you okay? And he said, he says, oh, sorry, I've not been in touch, XYZ's happened. He says, we've just bought a new house, me and my lass, so I'm buzzing about that. Everything's on the up, apart from the fact I've been told I've got less than 12 months left to live, right? So immediately what I've said to him is, like, mate, don't give up. I says, keep on fighting. And he said, he sent us a message back saying, I'll keep fighting, mate, don't worry, I'm not going to see my children grow up. And 2 weeks later, I died.
2 weeks?
2 weeks later, I was gone. And like I say, I'm no doctor or anything like that, but I just feel like him being told you've got 12 months left to live, meet your mind's a very powerful thing. And this is what I said about nocebo and placebo. And there's lots of things that have been, studies that have been done on how powerful your mind is, and belief, do you know what I mean? And it was so sad when he passed and that, and he was like, he was only 26 and he never got to see his daughter, right? But why am I telling you this? The reason why I'm telling you guys this is the power of belief is so important. And like I said, you can believe in fear, you can believe in good things, right? We as conscious beings, we have a choice to think about what we do, right? And I think now more than ever, because of like social media and that, you're bombarded with negativity and stuff like that. You've got to make a conscious effort to change what you're looking at, because what you think affects the way you feel, and the way you feel dictate the reality that you experience. And I think when people start seeing that everything's made of energy, it changes your perception on stuff. And you've got, honestly, like this, mate, can you imagine being a kid now? Oh, fucking my heart breaks for these kids now, which is why, see, I'm doing a lot of work with the NSPCC, because I'm an ambassador for them, and also Shine, which is a mental health charity part of it with the NHS.
Shine, yeah.
So I'm working with them, and like, to touch on one with the NSPCC, like, obviously they work with safeguarding children up to the age 18 and stuff like that, and the things that are going on in schools and that now, and being a kid, and like I met with my PE teacher, right? Again, one of the people who changed my life. Shout out to Mr. Johnson from Monk Seton High School. We were talking about stuff and things like that, and I went to a meeting with the NSPCC, and I was telling them, I was like, look, that like they were telling us the things that are going on in school and that, like stuff with like sextortion, where kids are getting, you can imagine being in school now and that, and people are like, you know, because of Snapchat and stuff like that, and you know, people are sending naked pictures of themselves and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, like, do this and that, or I'm going to send this about, and you can, it's just hard. Like, imagine being in school, Instagram, Snapchat and that, it's psychologically destroying children's minds. Like, I had a message on TikTok a couple of months ago. Someone told us a 9-year-old committed suicide. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? When I was a kid, mate, I was 9 years old. I was running around banging on people's doors and running away from it, or chucking water bombs off the buses and having water fights in the street,
playing Kirby and all that shit.
Kirby, and I'm so, again, going back to my point, if I wasn't born when I would have never experienced that. And like, I'm a millennial, you're a millennial, you an X or millennial?
1980.
I think you might just be on the border of X-millennial.
Yeah.
Like, we know what the world was like before social media and the internet going mad, right? In the world after it, now it's changed, and we still know what freedom is. Yeah. Right? And this is why my heart breaks, mate. These kids, they've had their childhood taken away from them by technology, and they've got to be adults really fast. So they miss that critical phase of development, right? And that's why it's so relevant that we help them as much as we can, because if they don't get the advice and support and guidance, these kids, when they grow up, mate, we're going to have an epidemic of mental illness, and it's not their fault. This is the saddest thing, is they're a victim of society. I hate to use that word victim, but they were born into this world. They didn't create it.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? They're just a byproduct of what's been put on them. And that's why I feel so sorry for them.
And I suppose to change things, obviously, my viewpoint on this has always been that if you want to impact things, then you've got to go to the young, and you've got to try and impact that. And it seems to me, Schak, as well, which I didn't know, the charities that you're involved in, and you've told me now that you were speaking at a kid's school and that. Yeah. I'm assuming then now that the platform that you've currently got and that obviously your career path and what you've chosen to do, I can see how much it means to you. But am I right in thinking then that you're using that to go out there and do other things like the charities and you're focusing on young children in the UK and stuff as well, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's wicked.
I want to help as many people as I can. And like I said, why it's really, really important is these kids one day are going to be running the world. And if we don't help them, mate, society's going to be upside down. And this isn't their fault. This is what I'm trying to understand. It's not an excuse. It's harder than ever to be a child. And if we don't pass the torch down, right, if we don't help these kids, I want you to think about something, right? This is a really sobering thought. Okay, like I've just alluded to, we come from a time where we know what the world's like before AI, before the internet, before social media, right?
Almost before computers.
Right.
Yeah.
And we know what it's like after. Yeah. One day, when our tickets get punched and we're no longer here, you're only going to have people who know what the world's like under AI, the internet, social media, right? So if we don't pass down the wisdom, that idea of what it's like to be truly free, the values of being a child, those thoughts will be extinguished, mate. And it's a sobering thought to think what the world would be like without that. And this is why people who are here, I think we're the other luckiest people to be alive now, and people may be thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? The reason why I say this is this. You look at all the people who've went through all the really hard times of, you know, being murdered and raped and pillaged and dying from basic infections, right? All the people who sacrificed their lives in world wars and stuff like that. So we could harvest the fruits of their sacrifices, right? Life's easier than it was ever before. I know that might sound like an oxymoron given what we're just talking about, right?
Yeah.
But physically it is, right? In the sense that you're not up a chimney anymore, like sweeping bloody stuff and getting stuck there and dying, right? However, so we are at the crossroads. We will witness the change in humanity, which way we go. I don't know which is going to be, but we are here to witness it. And say, imagine all the people who've been here over the thousands of years, and like I was there then, I saw it. And this is why it's important to have these conversations, because we're at a crossroads and we're either going to go one way or the other, and we need to make a concerted effort to come together as one, to come together as people, stop fucking hating each other, stop being so angry and breaking the cycle of trauma, mate. And this is the thing is we have to break it. And this is why when I look at my journey in my life and my mother, that's what one of the things I believe I was born to do and why I'm here. It's passing down that knowledge. Because, mate, you said before, and I'm so glad you said it, right? You said some people are terrified of going there.
Yeah.
Rightly fucking so.
Yeah.
My mother had a friend who was she was there in the hospital the day I was born in Helders. She died, I think she was 80 when she died. She died in COVID, unfortunately. And she said to my mother one day, there's things that I just can't go there. And she was nearly 80 years old.
Yeah.
And there's people who go through that thing, that journey in life, and they physically can't do it.
Yeah.
And I get it, because it's fucking hard, but you've got to face your fears, mate. You've got to face your fears.
Mad. This is fucking too mad. We're literally talking about it this morning and yesterday of someone. Is it your father-in-law?
It's my mother's father. It's my granddad.
Your granddad, yeah. Sorry.
He's in his 80s now. He's got cancer. He's not got long to live.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. He's never gone there.
That's what
He's
he
never gone
said.
there. That's exactly what I said.
Are you saying he says that he hasn't, or did he openly tell you that?
No. It's just you can tell by his the way he is as a person.
Okay.
We're not all naturally, nasty and grumpy and miserable. It's a projection, like you said, of our pain and all the rest of it. We're lucky enough to have an awareness or an understanding of this. Does this mean that we know everything? Far from it. In fact, the wiser people become,
the more you know, the less that you actually know.
You know, yeah. But my thing on this is the understanding of the gratitude I've got. What I was saying to Jacky is, for whatever it is that we are aware of now, I'm grateful for that, because we get a chance to break the cycle.
Absolutely.
And we get a chance to continue this path of learning. And you're saying so many things in this conversation that we've been talking about today, Schak. So are we ready for the book
ready.
passing?
Yeah, this is because I know this is your favourite book of all time, so you can do it and you can tell them who it's from.
I mean, from me, Schak, I want to thank you first of all for coming on the show, and there's so many things we've not even spoke about, but I think the conversation we've had today has been really impactful, really deep, really meaningful, and for people that are tuning into this platform now and on this path and journey with us all, I think you've got a lot of insight there and perspective to pass on to your fans currently, and anybody who doesn't know Schak will now be intrigued to know more. But for me, we didn't even brush over the Mario Kart stuff, the B&Q stuff. That's maybe for another show.
Well, when we sat down in the coffee shop, I knew after 5 minutes I'm going to ask maybe one question out of this book.
Yeah.
Because I knew the conversation wasn't going to go that way, and I'm happy about that. And I just want to thank you for coming down.
I really appreciate the invitation, because I love having really, really stimulating conversation. That's why, like, obviously when we first met, and that, like, when you find somebody where you can have really, really, really pertinent, stimulating conversations, just it's so satisfying. Like, I'm not a small talker. I hate small talk. I'm a people person. I love understanding why people the way they are. And so to have such a rich conversation, it's an absolute honour to spend time with you.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate you inviting me to come down.
Yeah.
Really, really means a lot, mate, because this is what life's about, and I just hope that we collectively as a society have more conversations like this.
Beautiful. And on that note then, the previous guest has left a book. I'd be surprised if you've not read it.
Me too.
However, I believe you will have done, and I believe you'll appreciate the book, as did the guest who I left the book for on our first show, which is this book.
Yeah, I've got it.
Hold it up so we can see.
So
go on.
This is the Alchemist.
Paulo Coelho, the Alchemist, again has come to the table.
And
so
who passed him it as well?
This was my book recommendation that I left, and it got passed on to the S-Man.
No, but then who left it for hit? Schak.
This book was left by Lloyd, chapter and verse, and then Lloyd Wugboso. Unbelievable book, and I'm not surprised that you've read it, but again, it's pass it on if there's anybody you can pass it on to, Schak, feel free.
Well, that's the point. If you've read the book, pass the book to someone else who hasn't, who might be able to benefit from it.
Mate, it's always good to read again. So
exactly,
it's what Roger said.
Yeah, like exactly it's always good to read books again, because you know what I do. Like, obviously, the book. I'm not going to say it. The book recommendation that I gave you guys. I've read it multiple times, and I go back and highlight it. But because there's one thing I got off my mother. She always used to say her books, right, and she would have, like, highlight a pen and what the fuck's this? I would say it to her. I was like, what's this, mum? Like, why have you done this? And also I can go back and recall it. So the book, that book that I obviously recommended, I've read it multiple times, and I've went back over and highlighted stuff so I can go back and look at it, and the most things that I find that are relevant to me. So it's always good to read again and go back and highlight stuff. So I really, really appreciate this. It's such a pleasure to read, and it's a good book. And there's a lot of stuff, because I haven't read it for a while. So there's a lot of stuff I have forgot because I didn't go back and highlight it. So I'll be doing that again. So on that note, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick here, which has just come to me, is you're a big talker like me. We've got a lot of similarities. This book, if you could give one line on why this book should be read, try your best. A one-liner on this book and why it should be read. It'll help you evolve as a sovereign being.
Done. Schak, boxed. Schak, thank you very much for coming, mate.
Thank you very much, mate.
Beautiful conversation.
Pleasure, guys. Honestly, really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.